Sean and I were Catchment Bay Campus in Homer, Kenai Peninsula College, part of UAA. We actually provided this training in the spring for all of Alaska with adult education. And we've been hearing that a lot of providers need help connecting with clients. And so Zoom is like the wave of the future. It looks like it's going to be our future for a long time. So we wanted to provide this opportunity for you. And we are going to be sharing a lot of information today, and I'm just saying a lot, but because it's recorded, then you are going to have the opportunity to go back to the recording and watch it again. So don't feel like you have to get it all today. Um, you've got that recording that you can count on. Okay, so our thoughts for today, we're just going to do some getting started basics, some basic participant management. Then that will be with Sean. Then I'll go over the settings in Zoom and the in-meeting settings, and then we're going to talk about the advanced participant management back to Sean. So, all right, so let us get started here. First.
All right, first we're actually going to start off with a poll and ask you what type of a device that you're using. And so let's run that poll.
Sure.
At 90%, and so I'm going to stop the polling here and share the results with everybody. So here you can see the results. So 91% of us are on laptops and computers, iPads, and then other tablets. This is important for me as a presenter because what I know is you are seeing different things. A person on an iPad or a tablet will have different settings and will see it just a little bit differently than everyone else on a PC. Plus the people on iPads will interact with me a little bit different than people on PC computers. And that's something we will talk about towards the end of our presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing our results. You might actually have to close out of the poll, even though I've stopped, to get rid of that at the X at the top there. So we're going to get started today. Michelle, I'm going to ask for a remote control so I can change your screen. Oh, or you can change for me.
You got it.
Okay, I got it. Perfect. So first we're going to talk about view types, what you are seeing on your screen. And sometimes you kind of get this feeling that when you open up Zoom on a computer and then you go to a different computer and you open up and you're like, wait, it looks totally different. Or if you're hosting a meeting, it looks totally different. I'm going to give up remote control because it's kind of acting weird. Michelle, can you go back? Can you go back to our the screen before?
Yes, absolutely.
So again, talking about these different things, if you're hosting or if you're participating in the meeting, you're going to see it a little bit differently. So practice both being a host and being a participant because some of your settings will be in different places. Also, something to be aware of is if you're sharing a screen or not sharing a screen. Right now, Michelle is sharing our presentation, so you have these different view options because we are sharing. Also, there's a difference between full screen and not full screen. And so where we get there, go ahead and click next, is in the upper right-hand corner. And you can do this now. You'll see a little button that says view. For the people on an iPad and tablet, this is different. This is just for the PC computers. You'll see view at the top. Go ahead and click that now, and you should see these three options. It'll show you if you're either in full screen or not. And go ahead and click to be in full screen if you're not. You want to be in full screen so it's covering your whole computer. And you can click speaker side-by-side mode. And if you do that, you should just see the person who is speaking here off to the side. And when someone else starts speaking, they will pop up. Michelle, would you like to say something so you can pop up?
Yes, I will say something.
Perfect. And so as speakers, whoever is speaking is the person who pops up there in that side-by-side mode. If you change it to gallery, the one below it, that's where you can see all of the participants in the meeting beside the presentation. If you click standard, it actually takes that person and either puts them up at the top, or as you can see on the screen, it makes their video kind of this separate window that pops out that you're able to then move around the screen. And you can change the size of it. You can see everybody, you can make it smaller, you can minimize their video as well. For ours, I think the best is side-by-side speaker mode. And so everyone go ahead and go up to view, make sure you're in full screen and click side-by-side speaker, and that'll be a very clean presentation for us to teach you today. All right, next screen. Also, another tool that you can do is if you're in a meeting with a lot of people, you can specifically pin a video. If you go above someone's screen and you see the 3 dots up at the top, you can pin the video, which means you're making their video the most important. And no matter if other people are talking, that video will still stay up. This is really usable in like a Q&A situation where you might have like an expert speaking and you have a bunch of people asking different questions. You can pin the presenter's video so they never go away and you just hear these questions, but you still see the presenter. If you are hosting the meeting, that is under the term spotlight. You spotlight that person's video. Right. Now we're going to talk about just our basic features. So talking about muting and unmuting for everyone on a PC computer, you'll see our toolbar here at the very bottom here on the screen too. This is a picture. You will see your actual toolbar below it. The very bottom left is the mute button. You can click it to mute and unmute yourself. If you right next to it is our video button. If we click that, that will turn your video on and off. And then the other button we're going to talk about today is the manage participants. So if you look next to security, there's the manage participants. And in our meeting, I'm seeing 60 people in our participants. If you click that, you will see a list of all of the participants pop up. Michelle, could you go to our next screen? Perfect. Thank you. So it should look like this. And what you can do, what I want you to do is actually rename yourself. So if you find your name, you can actually click off to the side and you can click rename. Because if you notice that some people, depending on what computer you're using, it'll actually come up with a very generic name for that computer. Sometimes I'm meeting with clients and individuals, and if they're on an iPhone or an iPad, it just pops up iPhone or iPad, and I don't know who it is. As a host, I can go through and actually rename people by going into participants. I click more and click rename, but I can also have them do it themselves. So I want everyone to go into the participants now, find yourself, go ahead and click more and rename yourself by just your first name. So like right now, mine says Sean Story host. I'm going to click more, rename, and I'm going to change it to just Sean. And then I'm going to put my organization, which is KBC for Ketchum Bay Campus. And I'm going to hit OK. So you will see that then show up as Sean KBC. Go ahead and do that now. Try to change your name and add your organization. Perfect. I see Amanda at Matsu did it. Good job. I see Dimitri at the Job Center, Fran, Glenn, Ashley, Alyssa. So again, to get there, you click on the participant button at the bottom. I'm going to highlight it here in red to make it a little clearer. So if we look at that toolbar, we click on the participant button. All of the participants will pop up in a separate window. Since we're in full screen, this will be a separate window that pops up. You will find your name. Off to the side, you'll be able to click more and then rename.
And Sean, just so you know, our captioning is right over the bar on some of the devices.
Okay.
So we can't always see the bar because of the
Mm-hmm.
captioning.
For the people on iPads and tablets, you should see a participant button too, but I think it's at the top of your screen, the top right-hand corner for iPads. For tablets, if it's an Android tablet, it'll be at the bottom like ours, but the iPads will be in the upper right-hand corner. All right, I'm seeing a lot of people changing their names. The next thing we're going to talk about is the chat feature. This is where we're going to post questions today. So if you look at your toolbar at the bottom, one of those buttons is the chat. For people on the iPad and the tablet, you will have to go to your more settings with the buttons. So you'll actually look for those three dots. iPads will be up at the top. Your Android tablet will be at the bottom at your toolbar. Click the more and then click chat. For people on computers, you'll click chat here, and that will open up our chat box. Go ahead and in our chat box right now, open up the chat box. And the first thing you really want to pay attention to is who you're writing your message to. Right here in this picture, it says everyone. That means your message is being sent to everyone. You have to select who you want to send a message to. In some meetings, you are able to select and send a message privately to individual people. So if you select that person, like say I'm in a meeting and I message Michelle, and so I send a private message to Michelle, but then Sally sends me a message and I see Sally's message. If I start writing a response, it is still automatically defaulted to Michelle because she was the last person I sent a message to. So every time you have to manually click this button and select who do you want to send a message to. I want everyone go ahead and open up the chat box. Go ahead and click everyone that you're sending a message and go ahead and introduce yourself. Go ahead and write your name, your organization, and where you're joining us from in the world. I don't know if everyone here is in Alaska. We might have some non-Alaska people. I don't know though. I think everyone will be from Alaska. We'll see. So go ahead and open up the chat box. So one thing that's important when you are hosting a meeting, when you open up participants as a host, you can go through and actually mute everybody. And you can also click mute all. And that's what I was doing when we were starting this meeting, since we have over 50 people, we have 58 people joining the meeting. As people were coming in, I was clicking the mute button, muting everybody's microphone. So we have this really clean audio for the recording. And then I can ask to unmute people. As a host, I cannot unmute somebody, I can only mute them. And so that's something that you can manage your participants. You can also turn off your video. So say there's somebody in your meeting and they don't realize that their camera is on and maybe they're taking their computer with them to the bathroom and you see it, which totally happens, you can go into participants and close their video for all your participants. That's how you manage your participants. All right, and then we're ready to go to the next. And so that is all of our settings. We're going to use the chat box for asking questions. Michelle is now going to get in and talk about all of the settings. As you have questions, go ahead and write them in the chat box and I will be looking for questions.
Okay. All right. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of things that I'm going to be covering today. All of these things. And part of the thing that I found the most confusing about when I started really getting into Zoom in the spring was that the settings are in different places. And so it was like I was having a hard time figuring out how I could do what I wanted to do. And so, like I said, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and review these things afterwards. So the first place you need to know about is zoom.us. If anybody here is part of University of Alaska, it would be alaska.zoom.us. Everybody on the University of Alaska system, students and staff, have a paid Zoom account. But if you have your own personal account, it's going to be at zoom.us, and there are going to be a number of different settings there. The other place that you will find settings is in the meeting. So if you hover over the bottom of your screen, for most of you, 91% of you are on a laptop or a desktop, and you hover over the bottom of your screen and you see the mute and the stop video and that little up hatch mark, and there's a video settings. If you click video settings or choose virtual background, you're going to get a whole bunch of other settings. These settings on the meeting are specific to the computer you are on. So if you go to a different computer, these settings are different. So that's just a great thing to remember and realize that if you're going to switch computers, you're going to have to go in and check your settings. So the first place to think about is Zoom.us, and there's a lot of different things: profile, meetings, webinars, recordings, settings, account profile, and reports. The first one I want to go over is a meetings tab, and under the meetings tab, they have upcoming, previous, personal room, and meeting templates. So upcoming is if you actually schedule it in. What have found in the hundreds of Zoom meetings I've been in, I have one meeting room. That is my personal meeting room. I have set my meeting ID to be 907-235-1602, which is my office phone number at work. And so anytime anybody comes into my Zoom room, like all of you did today, that is my meeting ID. And so um, on the personal your personal meeting room, if you go to the bottom, there is an edit button. And if you click that edit button, that is where you can change the settings of your personal meeting room. So you can choose, do you want someone to have to put in a passcode? Do you want to put people in a waiting room? Do you want the host video and participant videos to be on or off? Do you want people to be able to call into your meeting on a phone? I've noticed that a number of people today have just called in on a phone and are not seeing this on a computer. And then there's some other. Now, this is in the meetings tab. In the settings tab, there are 3 other settings that you have to enable that personal meeting ID. So you have to actually go into the settings tab to the personal meeting room, click enable meeting ID, and use it when scheduling a meeting. So every time that I schedule a meeting, it automatically schedules it into my personal meeting room. It's very simple, very easy, very clean. I don't have to worry about having multiple meeting IDs. I have one meeting ID. Everybody knows if you want to meet me, come there. So also in the settings tab, you are going to have waiting room options. So you need to be able to enable or disable the waiting room. Zoom and security has been a big hot topic, and really the waiting room and the passcode are the 2 big ones. I feel like you don't need both. So I have a waiting room, and basically I just click admit. The nice thing is you can customize your waiting room. For those of you who were in our waiting room, you saw it says welcome to my virtual classroom. I will let you in shortly. You can edit that. You can add a logo, and then you can also edit another little blurb right there. Also, that's in Zoom.us. In the meeting, if you go down to that bottom bar, there's a button that says security. And there is another place where you have to enable the waiting room. So I have found that sometimes my settings in Zoom don't take, and that I actually have to change that setting in meeting setting also. So realizing that you have different places that you can enable these settings is helpful. Passcodes, wow, there are a lot of different things in the Zoom.us meeting setting for passcodes. And I just have one checked, and that is embed passcode in invite link for one-click join. In other words, nobody has to type in a passcode. There actually is a passcode, but when they get my Zoom link and they click it, it automatically lets them in. I feel like I don't need both a passcode and a waiting room, because that's a higher level of security than I need. And it adds to the complexity. So for the audio settings, again, you have some settings in Zoom.us, you have some settings in the meeting. So in Zoom.us, the audio type, you can check whether you allow people to call in on the phone. Some people don't have internet, their internet went out or something. So it's really nice to give people that option to call in on the phone. They can't see anything on the screen, they can only hear you. The other place in the meeting, at the bottom, if you hover over the bottom of your screen, there's the mute button, and you click that little up hatch mark, the caret, right next to the mute button, and it's going to say which microphone and which speaker you're using. So if you're troubleshooting and trying to help a client get on and their sound is not working and they're like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? No. Then you might go to have them look at that and make sure that they have selected the right microphone. They can also test the speaker microphone, and they can also click audio settings, that very bottom one, and they're going to get a whole bunch of different audio settings that are only available in the meeting itself. Okay, that was audio settings. Okay, I think I just went right by the video settings. Okay, so video settings in Zoom.us. These are the only settings, whether your host video is on or off when you join, and when the participant's video is on or off when they join. That's in Zoom.us. In meeting, you will have them go to the little button that says stop video and the up hatch mark and then video settings. And when they click on that, they're going to get a page that pops up that has video settings. And all of these different things are right there as well. Many people want to know, how do you get those cool backgrounds? And Sean's going to talk about that. Okay. All right. So there are 3 features that are only available in the paid version of Zoom Pro. One of them is the polls. One of them is a breakout rooms, and where you could actually take people out aside to a different room. And then the third thing that's part of the Zoom Pro paid features is the being able to change your personal meeting ID. So they will assign you, if you have a personal meeting room, they will assign you a number. But if you have a paid account, you can change that number to whatever number you want, or even a name, like your name. So you actually have to enable the personal meeting ID in the settings in Zoom.us. So both of these are things that you would do in Zoom.us. Okay, so as you've noticed, we have captioning going on this. And so in your settings in Zoom.us, and this is available for everyone, there is a closed captioning button. You have to click that and turn that on. And then there is another checkbox that says enable live transcription service to show transcript on side panel in meeting. So just checking that is not going to make the captions happen. When you go into the meeting and once you have checked this box, you go into the meeting, there is going to be a button that says live transcript. You click on that and you click enable auto transcription. And then basically everything you or anyone else says in that meeting is showing up on the transcription. So this is a new feature. I've only seen this available maybe in the last month. So it is really nice. It's not a 100% accurate captioning, as those of you who have been watching it have probably seen. But for someone who is hearing impaired or having challenges, maybe English language learners, this can be a tremendous benefit to be able to see the captions. Okay, and the other thing I just wanted to mention before this live transcriptioning came about, in PowerPoint, they have a feature called always use subtitles. So if you go in your PowerPoint and you're actually in a PowerPoint, you choose slideshow, and in the Office 365, they have always use subtitles. So every time you pull up a PowerPoint and you start presenting it, it is going to have subtitles on that PowerPoint. So again, that's a great feature for hearing impaired people or English language speakers. So these are the phone-in instructions. There's a whole lot on this page. It's a reference thing, but just to let you know how this works is that they have all of these different numbers. It doesn't matter which number you call. You can call any of them. I just choose the first one. You call one of those numbers. You're going to hear something that says, welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. And so you enter in mine, you see right here, my meeting ID, 907-235-1602. They just type that in, then pound. Then you'll hear a voice say, enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound. At that point, just press pound. You'll get it, and then after the tone, it'll say record your name, and then so the people can who are on phones can unmute and mute themselves by pressing *6. *9 will raise their hand if they're on a phone. And if they're in a breakout room and they press the pound key, it will take them back to the main room. So this is just a little brief primer on being able to phone into a Zoom meeting. Okay, and one other thing is that sometimes people are on devices that are locked that only administrators can make changes to and download apps. And so it almost invariably happens that somebody cannot download their Zoom app. Even though it's a very quick, simple app, if they have a locked device, there is that option to join from your browser. And this is something that's in the settings that you have to enable to allow people to join from the browser. Then it will be a web browser as opposed to an app on your computer or phone. So just be aware that that is a possibility and an option. And last most important thing, Zoom updates, make sure you have the latest version. This is actually pretty important. When I was getting ready for this presentation, I was like, oh, well, I got to take the screenshots, and lo and behold, I had an update available and I didn't even know it. So in the system tray in the lower right-hand corner of your screen on a PC, if you have a Mac, I can't tell you where your system tray is, but you're gonna, when you're in the system tray, you will right-click on the system tray to find the Zoom, and then you will left-click on the Zoom, left-click on the caret, right-click on the Zoom icon, and then you will choose check for updates with a left click. And then if there's any updates available, it will update. So if you decide to do this right now, it's not going to be able to update until you get out of this Zoom room, so Zoom meeting. Okay, all right, I'm gonna hand this back over to Sean.
All right, thank you, Michelle. So now I want to talk about what your clients are actually seeing when they join your meeting. And for me, this is the most frustrating part about working with Zoom, because every device and every iOS software looks differently, just a little bit. Settings are in a little bit different location, and we're going to look at what those look like for these different devices. There you go. Thank you, Michelle. So first is going to be our iPhone. This is what it looks like for a participant to be on an iPhone. Something to keep in mind is that the presenter, whoever is speaking at that meeting, is in that upper right-hand corner of their screen, and it cannot be moved. So that means any information that's in that upper right-hand corner can't be seen by that person because the video is over it, and they cannot move that video. They have to actually zoom in and kind of move around on that screen. Their mute and video button are here in the bottom left-hand corner, just like on PCs, and they can annotate with that blue pencil. They can swipe left to actually then see all of the participants in the meeting in what's called gallery mode, just like with your PC, where you, like the Brady Bunch, where you can see all of the pictures. Swipe left. All right. Next is going to be Android phones. Looks very similar. The difference is, notice where the presenter is. Now it's in the bottom right-hand corner, and that cannot be moved. So if someone's on an Android tablet or an Android phone, that image is going to be in the bottom left-hand corner. And so if you're dealing with two people at the same time, which I often do as a teacher, and one student's on an iPhone and one student's on an Android phone, I basically can't put anything on that right-hand side of the screen because one person can't see the top and one person can't see the bottom. So I try to get into the habit of keeping most of my text on the left side of the screen, knowing that that video is going to show up somewhere on that right side of the screen. For iPads, what I was talking about earlier, For iPads, all of the settings are in the actual top of the screen, not in the bottom left. For all of the other devices, like your computer, you mute and open up your camera in the bottom. iPads is in that top. They have to mute themselves up at the top. So if you're dealing with a client that's on an iPad and they're muted and they're trying to talk to you and they need to unmute yourself, you need to tell them to go to the top right-hand corner to click on that microphone to unmute themselves to speak to you. The presenters are in the bottom and they have a little plus and minus to show more or less people. So like in this meeting, since there's 60, you could hit the plus and scroll through and see all 60 of the videos if you wanted to with that plus and minus. So all three of these devices here do have the ability to annotate, which is that blue pencil, and that blue pencil is in the bottom left-hand corner, but it is different than the annotation features on a computer. And we will get to that here in a bit, where I will show you all the annotation features for a PC computer. If they are on some type of a tablet or phone, the only thing they can do pretty much is draw. They cannot insert text like you can do on a computer. So they can annotate by clicking that blue pencil, and they can then draw, circle, highlight, and they can actually draw things on the shared screen that we're going to look at later today. The last device I'm going to talk about are Chromebooks, which look very similar to a PC computer. The only difference is if you look at the toolbar at the bottom, they have a lot less tools. Someone with a Chromebook cannot annotate, they cannot draw, they cannot insert text. They don't have any of those tools that PC computers have. They can't do a virtual background, and sometimes there's difficulty sharing screens as well. There are a lot less features on a Chromebook than a PC computer. So now we're talking about annotate. How do we draw and annotate and get your clients to participate on your screen? And how can you annotate on one of your clients' screen? And it depends if you're hosting a meeting or if you're participating in a meeting. Since all of you are participating now, you're going to go to the very top of your screen where you see options. You should see Michelle Wazlowski sharing her screen, that little green bar up at the top, unless you've moved it, because you can move that to other places. It naturally is up at the top. You'll click view options and you'll see the word annotate. If you click that now, you will get this whole toolbar of annotation tools where you can insert text, you can draw, you can stamp figures where you have like an arrow, a star, and a heart. And you have all of these different tools that you can do. Perfect. I see Amanda's annotating. I see different people there.
Hey, Sean,
Yep,
quick question. Can a
yes.
Chromebook user move the speaker image?
Yes, a Chromebook user can move that speaker. It pops up as a separate window and you can move it around just like PCs can when you're in the standard mode. When you're in full screen standard, it's that pop-out window that you can move around. That's what it looks like for a Chromebook user as well. Perfect. I see people annotating. I'm going to clear all. As a host, I'm able to do that. I can clear all of the drawings. As a host, if you're hosting, annotations actually at the bottom in your toolbar. And so that's something to keep in mind, that they will be in two different places, whether if you're hosting or participating. All right, next screen. I want to practice annotating now. And so the question that I have is about pets. What type of a pet do you have? Do you have a dog, a cat? Do you have something other, or you don't have a pet? Go ahead and stamp. I want you to use the stamp tool. So click stamp and you can either do a heart or you can do a star, and go ahead and stamp the type of pet that you have. And if you stamp other, go ahead and insert text and write what type of a pet that you have. You can do text. You can then go over to format where you can change the color of your text, and then you can even change the size of your text. Like that. Perfect. All right, we're going to go to our next screen now. I think it's pretty even. Maybe more dogs. I thought more dogs, especially being in Alaska. I feel dogs are more popular here in Alaska. All right, I'm going to clear all of our drawings. Now what we're going to do is we're going to practice drawing, but we're going to draw a really clean circle. So if you click on the draw button and up at the very top, there's actually a pre-made circle, which will make this really nice clean circle. I'm going to go to format and change mine to red and change it to the really thin line since we're making really small circles. And I want you to circle your birthday. My birthday is March 24th, and I'm going to circle it just like that. So go ahead and do draw, that tiny circle, go to format where you can change the color of your circle, and then you can change the thickness of your line width, to then circle it there. And that's how you annotate. And this is a vital tool when working with clients. I use it all the time when I'm helping someone navigate the internet, which we will demonstrate here. All right, I'm going to clear all drawings. We're going to go to our next. All right, so we're going to actually demonstrate what this looks like for a client, like how I use annotation when I'm talking to somebody, when I'm helping them navigate the internet. And we're going to model that with me and Michelle. So Michelle's going to stop sharing her screen, and this is what it's going to look like. So like, say I'm in a meeting with Michelle and I'm saying, all right, Michelle, we're going to do a job search, and I'm going to take her to the My Alaska page. So I'm going to say, Michelle, I want you to share your screen. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a green button, Michelle, that says share screen. Go ahead and click on that, and you should see a window that pops up, and it'll give you a few options. Click that first option, which is your share desktop, and you'll see a blue button that says share. Go ahead and click on that. Awesome. Perfect. And I see we're on the internet. Let's go ahead and open up a new tab. And the way that you do that is you see this plus right here. That's how you open up a new tab. So let's click a new tab. Perfect. Let's go to the address bar right here. And this is where you're going to type our website. So go to your address bar and type my.alaska.org.
Gov.
Oh, .gov,
Not
you're
org.
right, gov. I have mine saved. We're going to sign in for you, Michelle. So you got this. You don't even need me. I don't need to show you. Go ahead and type in your username and password. Do you know your username and password? If you don't know your username and password, Michelle, go ahead and call the job center here in Homer. They will take care of you because I don't have time for that. Go ahead and type in your username and password. Perfect. So I think you guys understand how this works, right? Like, so I can see her screen and I can annotate and actually show her where to click and how to click. If there's a lot of things that actually need to happen, something that I can do is ask for remote control. So if I go up to the top to view options, there is request remote control, which actually allows me to take over her computer, where I can actually go through and I actually can do the typing too. I can click on something and actually type and go to the website and actually have complete access. It does take a lot more bandwidth to do that. Since we have 61 participants, it was kind of acting a little wonky for us. And our last one is breakout rooms. Breakout rooms is one of those features that you have if you pay for Zoom, if you have Zoom Pro, and it's at the bottom of your toolbar, you'll see breakout rooms is one of the options. Something to keep in mind when you use a breakout room is you get to make the choice as the host if you want to choose who you put into breakout rooms, or if you want Zoom to just randomly select people. When I'm working with people, I often do random just because I just want like discussion groups, right? That I'm just like randomly putting people into different groups. But for you, you could really be strategic on who you put into groups. Like say you're in a meeting with 5 people and you need to have a private conversation with one person to maybe confirm their social security number and see their social security card. So you open up a breakout room, you individually select who you want to go in, you assign that one person into that room, and then as the host, you join the room. So then the 2 of you are in this private meeting space. You can confirm that social security number, and then you both leave that breakout room and you're back into the meeting. And no one had to actually leave and re-enter your Zoom meeting. As a host, you were able to navigate all of that by opening up a breakout room. Other things to keep in mind that if you are ever to do a discussion group with like something this big, like we had 60 people, if we were to put people in the breakout rooms, you want to give your instructions really clearly before you send people to the breakout rooms. Because as a host, when you send people to multiple breakout rooms, you kind of don't have contact with those people anymore as a host. To actually talk to those people, you have to individually join each of those rooms separately. So you join one room and then you can talk to that group of people, but then you can join another room and talk to those groups of people. So it's really hard to send kind of mass communication out to your different breakout rooms. So you really want to make sure people know what they need to do before you send them to a breakout room. And also another strategy that we find useful as teachers is assigning a group leader. So if I know I'm going to have like 3 breakout rooms in a large class, I'm going to strategically choose 3 people first that I know are going to be like my stronger leaders. And I will choose them and actually say, hey, here's a slide that I emailed you. When you get into your breakout room, share this screen so everyone in your group can see the instructions on what you're supposed to do in that breakout room. That's something that you can do too, is strategically choose somebody, email them an image to share to that group in that breakout session. And so that's running breakouts. And that, I think, was our last slide for all of the Zoom tools and features.
Yes, so at this point, if anybody has any specific questions that you have about Zoom that you would like, feel free to unmute yourself or put up a question in the chat box, and we'll give it a few minutes here. If you have any specific questions about things on Zoom, just feel free, and between Sean and I think
There's
we'll be able to answer them.
there's a question, Michelle. What can you tell us about basic versus pro accounts? Do you have to request a pro account or do you already have one?
Let's see. Some organizations already have them. Like I mentioned, the University of Alaska, every single student and faculty and staff member already has an account. You have to find out if your particular organization has a Zoom account. And so basically, it's just something that you go on zoom.us and you pay for it like you would pay for any account. I think it's $14.99 a month. And so it's not a request thing. It's just you're literally paying for it, and then they just automatically bill your credit card every single month.
And some
Okay.
of the major differences that I see, like, because I use both when I'm doing stuff for the University of Alaska, I have my UAA Zoom Pro account. And then when I'm doing personal meetings, I have my own Chromebook that I have. And what I've noticed is your personal ID meeting, when I'm on the UAA account, I can make that my office phone number and make it really easy to communicate to clients and students saying, hey, if you want to join my meeting ID is my phone number. And they already have my phone number. So it's really easy for them to remember. When I'm on a private account, I can't change that personal ID number. It's just this generic number that they create. And then if you even schedule meetings, they create even a new one. And so it's like you have less control over what that ID is. Also, the biggest thing that I notice is the amount of time. If you're not in a pro account, if you're in a basic account and you're hosting a meeting, it can only last for, I think, like 40 minutes. After 40, oh, is it 30?
40, yeah.
40, yeah, 40 minutes. So after 40 minutes, your meeting automatically closes. Where with the pro account, you can have unlimited amounts, just like this, where our presentation is going about an hour. We couldn't do this on a basic account. After 40 minutes, it would have kicked us all off.
And the next question is, does it really make a difference logging into Zoom from a website or logging in from an app or a laptop? And I would say, yes, the app is definitely going to just be a more stable platform. And I believe that if you log in on the web, you're not actually logging into your account. And so, and you don't have to have an account, a Zoom account, to log into a meeting. Obviously, not everyone has a Zoom account. They can just click the link and go into a meeting. They make it difficult to actually log in on a web browser. They don't want you to. They want everyone to download the app. So So I would say yes, it's just better to have the app, um, just because it's quicker. You get onto it quicker too. So if you're sharing a screen, are you able to mute yourself and still have others hear you? Absolutely. I am sharing my screen. I've been sharing my screen for an hour. I muted myself when Sean was talking so that my video wouldn't pop up. So
Mhm.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. Any other questions?
Because yeah, we'll also do that like during breaks. Like if we have a really long class, we'll have just like we have this thank you page up. We'll open up a page being like, all right, 5-minute coffee break, mute yourself and walk away. And everyone can be muted, but that screen still can stay up. Mhm.
Yep. And we don't we just try to have fun with it and be as personal as possible within this. Looking at the camera, smiling a lot, enjoying yourself, because that's really about the connection and feeling that connection that people are really craving and not getting a lot of these days, and as they're at home a lot. And so just trying to find any ways, having asking and requesting people to turn on their videos is a nice thing when you're working with people in small groups or one-on-one, so that you can make some eye contact with them.
Got it. Another advice that I have for like the multiple devices, when you're hosting a meeting, get another device like your phone and actually pull it up on the meeting too. That's actually what I was doing when I was first starting to use
Mhm.
Zoom about a year ago teaching, is I would connect my phone to the meeting as well. So I had the host, which was my computer, and then I had a participant too. So I could see what my participants were seeing when I was
Mhm.
running my meeting and teaching my classes. And so
Yep.
feel free to add other devices to your meeting so you could kind of see the different perspectives on what
Mhm.
they're seeing.
Yep. Yep. I just keep an iPad. If I have a student who logs in on an iPad, I will log in on an iPad so that I can give them directions. And I also have, if I have a student on an iPhone, I will log in on an iPhone because I know they have it. I also have a Surface here. So I have 4 devices right here that I can log into a meeting on. As a minimum, I am always logged into a meeting on 2 devices, a laptop, my main computer, and then another device. So just like the situation that you saw earlier in our presentation today, it was like my internet glitched out, my Zoom froze. I had to leave the meeting and I came back to the meeting and I started sharing again. And because I made Sean a co-host, and because I had another device already on that was also a host, I didn't kick you all out. And so it is my backup and my security, and to always have 2 devices on a meeting. And just make sure that the second device that you come in on, that you mute yourself. Otherwise, you'll get that really weird audio echo. So only have the audio on one device, and you really only need to have the video on one device also. Um, let's see, Sean, we got a question there. The 40-minute limit. You get so yes, I have also heard that the 40-minute limit was removed due to COVID. I I've heard different things, and I've actually been in meetings with different experiences. Sometimes I have been in meetings where they actually logged us out after 40 minutes.
Hmm.
And I've also been in meetings that the person did not have a pro account, but they were able to go longer. If there's only 2 people, you have unlimited time. If there's 3 or more people, it's going to limit you to the 40 minutes, is my understanding. So if it's just you and one other person, then you can get on Zoom as long as you want together. All right. Any more questions for us? All right, so this video is, we will get the recording and we will email it out to anybody who has sent us the email. Feel free to share it far and wide. We are happy to let people use this in whatever way they want to get the word out there about how to do Zoom. And if people have other requests and would like us to do a Zoom training, I'm sure Sean and I love doing this, and we have a lot of fun with it. So we would be happy to share more with folks if they're interested.